There we go. Okay. All right, so primary factors blocking Black professionals, that's what we're going to focus on today. And there's going to be an activity, an activity at the end of this session where I'm going to ask some of you to actually share what you would have worked on. So that's today. Then next week, we are going to focus on personal brand attributes of leading Black professionals. So what is it about your personal brand that most Black professionals who have achieved a certain level of success have in common? So we're going to walk through that. Next week, then the following week, we're going to talk about career pathing for Black professionals. And then our final week, we're going to talk about steps to advance to senior and executive level roles. And each of the weeks, at the end of each session, we do have an activity. So very interactive session, because I create my workshops around like workshops I would want to attend. And I like workshops that allow you to be interactive and interact with other people and to get an opportunity to actually practice and share. So let's focus on today, which is primary factors blocking Black professionals from leadership roles. You will see there is a QR code on each slide. That QR code it takes you to my own company's career e-coaching programs. So that's just there because I'm not going to talk about it because this is about Black Professionals Month, but that's there just so you can have it and access it if you would like. So let's talk about the primary factors. So the first one, lack of self-confidence. And that is a factor blocking Black professionals. I know I had it a lot and it was fairly intense. I mentioned it briefly yesterday. It's fairly intense lack of self-confidence that I suffered from throughout my early childhood up through adolescence, up to college, and even as I started my professional life, I had a lack of self-confidence. And oftentimes it's that noise, that negativity that crams our heads. And we sometimes aren't able to push out the noise, push out that negativity because of our lack of self-confidence. And so there are strategies, even now as I grew up as a shy introvert. And when I say shy introvert, you have no idea. I mean, I was so shy that when the teacher would call on me in class to answer questions, I would literally cry. Like tears would start streaming down my face because I would be so petrified at the thought of speaking or being seen and noticed by anyone in the classroom that I would literally tears would start streaming down my face. I had no self-confidence, no self-esteem. I felt I had no identity, certainly didn't feel like I had a voice. So that stayed with me for years. So a lot of Black professionals have this in common, and it does block us. And there are certain strategies that we can learn to help us get over that. So that's one, lack of self-confidence. This is a big one, the difficulty finding a sponsor. That is a block that a lot of Black professionals face. There's a lot of research out there about why this is, why that we have a hard time finding a sponsor. And sometimes it's the sponsors or the people who could be sponsors who are choosing not to do it for various reasons. One reason is the association, the visible association. So for instance, a mentor is someone who can be behind the scenes. They can be mentoring you, guiding you, but it could be a very private relationship between the mentor and the mentee. And a lot of Black professionals have mentors. But if you're a sponsor or you have a relationship with a sponsor, that is a very public relationship, but very public partnership between the sponsor and the person they're sponsoring, the sponsee, if you will. That sponsor wants people to know that they're sponsoring this particular person. And it is usually someone within your organization at a very, very, very high level who can help you, can clear out all of the minds, all of the things that could derail your career. I had a sponsor when I was at Reebok. The chairman of the company was my sponsor. And he let everyone know that he sponsored me. And that's the difference between sponsors and mentees. A sponsor is very visibly supportive of your career. But it's very hard for Black professionals to find sponsors, extremely hard. So when people ask me, how do you do it? There are ways you can go about finding a sponsor, but a lot of times, in my case specifically, the sponsor found me. So Paul Fireman, who was the founder and chairman of Reebok, he saw how much I was working. I was working my tail off because I was heading up. I wasn't at the time, I wasn't the head of PR for Reebok. I was, I think, a manager, maybe a senior manager, or maybe a director, when he saw something in me and wanted to help me grow throughout the organization. But it wasn't until he saw that he wasn't potentially going to waste his time working with me. He saw that I had something, and that's something that Black professionals, you want to make sure that people see you, that they notice that you have some strengths, that they notice that you're going to be able to live up to their expectations. So that's another block, difficulty finding a sponsor. The other one is code shifting. Code shifting. That's a big one. Most of us go through it at some point in our careers, which is not feeling like you can bring your authentic self to work. So if you tend to want to have a natural hairstyle like this beautiful Black woman has, do you want to straighten your hair? Do you straighten your hair because it's, seen as in line more with the people with whom you're working, assuming that you're working more with white professionals? So do you have an accent that you might want to not have as strongly or sound as strongly when you're in the office? So how do you go about blending in, if you will? And that's code shifting, the pressures of not being able to bring your authentic self to work. How you dress, maybe on weekends you dress in ways that reflect your culture, but when you go into work, you feel more pressure into dressing like everyone else. Pressures of code shifting is another obstacle blocking Black professionals from leadership roles. This next one, little to no executive access. This is a big one. When executives are, let's say as an example, when they have a promotion, when they have an opportunity to promote someone within their department or within their role, their managerial role, and they don't know who you are, it's going to be harder to have your name come top of mind. Oh, let me reach out to Denise. Let me reach out to Jonathan and see if they're interested in throwing their hat in the ring. But if you're not having access to that executive, they're not likely to have your name pop up top of mind. And that's what a lot of Black professionals face, is not having that executive access, not being able to pick up the phone and call an executive in the organization and saying, hey, can we set up a meeting to talk about something? Can we have breakfast? Can we have coffee? Those opportunities are not as plentiful for Black professionals as they are for other groups within organizations. And so that is a huge block for us. And it does tie back into self-confidence, because if you don't have enough self-confidence or have the level of self-confidence to feel like you can't pick up the phone, call an executive within your organization and feel like you're gonna, be, told no, which is okay. I mean, it's not the end of the world. The sun is still gonna rise the next day, or at least, at some point. It's not going to kill your career, potentially. It's probably not going to kill your career if you pick up the phone and ask to have a meeting with an executive within your organization. But again, it is tied to the first point, which is lack of self-confidence. And we are going to go back and talk in some detail on these points as well in a few minutes. And also, although in this case, I can see you guys, I was going to say I wouldn't be able to see you if you raised your hand, but I can, as long as your camera is on. But if you want to, insert a comment, ask a question, there's going to be time for Q&A at the end, but there's certainly, this is meant to be an interactive discussion for sure. Small to no external network. That's another big one. Small to no external network. So do you have a network either in your personal circle or in your professional circle that includes people that can help you, that can support you throughout your career? Are there organizations, you belong to meetups or civic groups or professional organizations that you can go to, that you even online? Are you involved in Facebook groups? anything that is going to help you increase your visibility, that is going to help you do something, behaviors or actions that are going to let people know that you're there, one, and that give you an opportunity to demonstrate your thought leadership around a particular topic. So we Black professionals do have a difficult time, and it is considered a career block because our external network is not as wide as it could be and should be as we're climbing that corporate ladder, because people are more comfortable working with and supporting people with whom they have some kind of knowledge, familiarity, relationship. That's how it goes. And that's how it is. So we want to make sure that you are expanding your external network. And that was something that I had to work on, because as I got out of college, and I started my career, shockingly enough, as a television news reporter, which is really funny on so many levels, when I was such a shy introvert crying in class. And here I'm like, wait, I want to be a reporter. But I thought in some warped way that if I threw myself into something that was just so beyond my comfort zone, I knew I needed to expand my comfort zone so that at some point I would feel more comfortable speaking and talking. And I just kind of went for it. And I just became, I became a television news reporter, because it did test me and it pushed me in such a way that I knew mentally that I needed to do that. So think about that as you're going through your career, as you're on this professional journey. Think about that. And we're going to talk about that as well. And I talk about that a lot in my workshops. Think about where it is you want to go. I have one of my workshops, I have a class, a module that's called Target the Top. Envision where you want to go, and then let's plan how to get there. And this is that way too. So you take all these blocks. In what way are these blocks specifically hurting or blocking you in your career? And that's actually what we're going to work on a little bit in a few minutes. But small to no external network, what can you do to expand your network? What do you need to do to expand your network so that you are more visible and that people know you, they get to know you, and they know then when there's an opportunity, they know to reach out to you. You guys all know about this. Racial prejudice and microaggressions is a career block for sure. Oh, you sound so articulate, or you don't sound like the rest of them, or wow, your hair is so pretty. How did you get it to do that? Or wow, can I touch your hair? Oh, can I? Oh, your skin is so smooth and so pretty. Those are those microaggressions. And a lot of times people don't understand the mental impact those have on us. Like, because I'm not splitting my verbs, or because I know how to speak or write grammatically correctly, why is that such a surprise that we have to be called out for it because I'm articulate? And people who are saying that aren't hearing it the way we're hearing it. And so we say something, if we don't say something, like, how do we respond to it? How does it help? How does it hurt us mentally? What does it do to us mentally? And it does have an impact on us, which is why it is considered a career block. There are some studies out there now because of the pandemic where there are a lot of, I can't remember the exact percentage, but it's fairly high, where there are especially Black women. So Black professionals, especially Black women, who had a sense of relief because they could work from home and not have to go into the office and be subjected to these microaggressions. And that helped them. And they felt just so mentally freer because they didn't have to deal with that. The pressures were off. So they could do more and be more productive at work. But of course, we know this is, well, at least as a whole, 100%, that's limited, and people are starting to have to go back to work. But I think there will be a certain percentage of companies that do let people stay at home. But in this case, there's research that shows a lot of Black women did feel more comfortable being able to work at home and not have to specifically deal with microaggressions at work. And this is the last one, which is sort of a no-brainer, but I do want to highlight a lack of experience and qualifications. I mean, there's sometimes when we simply don't have the qualifications or the experience to apply for and be selected or hired into these top level roles. And sometimes it's having to go and reskill or upskill until we get that level of experience. But that is one of the blocks, is we need to have more experience and we need to have more qualifications. But there was an interesting study. I want to tie that to the first one, lack of self-confidence, because there was a study done a couple years ago, and it was a fascinating study that was done about two groups, men and women. This is not about race, but it was about gender, but I still think it's interesting, and that's why I want to share it with you. There was a study that showed two groups, men and women. What percentage of men felt comfortable applying for a job when they did not meet all the qualifications? So let's say there's a job posted, there are 10 qualifications listed. What do you think men felt that they needed? How many of those what percentage of those qualifications do you think men felt they needed to check off their list before they were like, yep, I can go for it. I feel good. I'm going to go get that job. So I'm going to ask you guys, what percentage? So 1 to 10 or 10% or 0% to 100%, did men feel that they could check off those qualifications and feel comfortable applying for that job? What percentage? Anybody want to take a guess? Just throw out a number.
I'm actually familiar with this.
Yes.
But I don't know the number, but can I explain?
Yeah.
Okay, so ultimately that men tend to apply for jobs. So like women will only apply for jobs if they think they meet like 80 to 90% of the qualifications, versus men will apply to jobs when they only meet 50 to 60% of qualifications or something like that. But basically that we do feel less confident when going about things, and then kind of have a sense of like entitlement when applying, versus we're hard on ourselves. No offense, Jonathan.
It's true, but you nailed it. And it's actually 100%, which is even worse.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, for women, 100%. This particular study, the women, an overwhelming number of women believe that they did not feel comfortable or confident applying for a job unless they could check off all 10 qualifications. Whereas men, you're right on the men, 6 out of 10. As long as they met six, they were, yep, I got this. Entitlement, to use your word. Yeah. So it ties back to lack of confidence. We just don't believe that we can go in and apply for something if we don't meet all the qualifications and more, not just meet all those qualifications, but much, much more, much more. But yeah. No, and it's a fairly, like you said, you'd heard it. I think it's people were so outraged when that study came out. So people saw it and they remember it. So an activity, let's have some fun. We're going to have some fun with an activity. So what would you do? What would you do? Okay, so let's look at the block. So when you are faced with a career block, when we all have them, there are different ones, and there might be something that wasn't on the list that perhaps Black professionals are facing. But when you're facing a career block and you sit there and you think, okay, now I can relate. Which ones can I relate to? And you're kind of processing, going, how many of these or which of these career blocks have I dealt with? And then, okay, so these are the career blocks I face. Now, if I had this particular tool, what would I do with it? What could I do with it? If I had a particular tool, now I'm facing this particular career block. If I had this tool, what would I do with it? What could I do with it? So as a reminder, here are the 7 blocks, career blocks: lack of self-confidence, difficulty finding a sponsor, pressures of code shifting, little to no executive access, small to no external network, racial prejudice, microaggressions, lack of experience and or qualifications. Now, what I'm going to ask you guys to do is fill in the blank. I can relate to what? Not having enough self-confidence. I can relate to feeling blocked because I don't have a sponsor, or I can relate to not feeling comfortable bringing my authentic self to work, the code shifting we talked about. And then you're going to complete it. If I had what? If I had this tool, whether it's confidence, if I had more confidence, I would what? In this example, I would apply for that VP promotion. If I had the confidence, I would go for it. Or this tool, if I had a larger network, and that's a tool in your toolbox. If I had a larger network, I would be more visible. I would be more visible, both in person and virtually, if I had a larger network. The last example here, another tool, executive access, a big tool. If I had executive access, I would outline my plan to deliver results despite my not having all of the VP qualifications. So if you had these tools, what would you do? I'll tell a quick story because I love telling stories. When I was a director at a big company, I had just come off of a few major wins, and one particular win with this celebrity athlete. My team and I had kicked butt, and we just were on fire, and we were just checking off wins and wins and wins. So when the promotions were coming out, I wanted to be promoted to VP. I remember walking into my boss's office, who was the chief marketing officer, all ready and excited, expecting him to tell me I got this VP promotion, because there was no doubt in my mind. I was ready to go home and pop a bottle of champagne. I walk in, you can imagine where I'm going with this. I did not get the promotion, and I was devastated. I don't know if you guys, if anyone has gone through that, but I was absolutely devastated that I did not get that promotion. And I asked, because I'm a straight shooter, I said, why? And he said something that stuck with me forever. And it's actually one of the pillars of my online e-coaching program, when he said, Denise, the executive team, namely the president of the company, they know that your team is kicking butt and doing all of this great work, you're exceeding expectations, but they don't know what you're doing. You specifically, you're not visible enough in front of the executive team, because I was always behind the scenes. Let's go back to my being a shy introvert. That never left me. I don't think if you're a shy introvert, that ever leaves you. You just learn strategies to how to deal with it, which is what I still do. So I tended to be behind the scenes. I let my team shine. I would send out notices to the employees, to the executive team, whenever we had a big function or big strategy or event or whatever it was, and we scored a lot of, runs, a lot of successes. I would send out a note, so-and-so, here's the results and blah, blah, blah. And I would give, kudos to different team members, so-and-so did this. And that was sort of my trademark. What was happening was, it was not putting me in that and showing that I was the one leading that team. And because of that, the executive team did not think I was visible enough. Perhaps they felt I was riding the coattails of other people. I don't know. So anyway, I walked out, I thought about it, changed how I worked. It wasn't about working longer or harder, because I was already doing that. It was about working smarter. The minute I started being more visible in front of the executive team, I started seeing things happen. And then when the next round of promotions were announced, I did get the promotion to VP. But I learned a valuable lesson from that, which is your personal brand, how visible you are, is absolutely tied to career success. And I had to think about, I don't like using the word success. I had to think about what were, but accomplishments, journey, climb, corporate ladder. It's tied. Your personal brand, your visibility is absolutely directly tied to your ability to climb that corporate ladder. So if you have this executive access and you then create that visibility among those executives, then you could go to someone and say there's a job open. You may not have those 4 or 5 qualifications, but you've been delivering so many results that if the executives knew about it, perhaps they would then say, you know what, you've done X, Y, and Z. You may not have X, Y, and Z checked off the list, but you've done this. So because of that, we're going to, promote you. We, Black professionals, have an opportunity to strengthen this or remove this block. So this is one of the examples when you complete this sentence. Okay, so what I want you guys, any questions about anything I've talked about so far? Any comments, questions, stories, experience with any of these blocks? Well, actually, let me not ask you the second thing I asked. Any questions so far about what we talked about? And we'll leave it at that. You guys good? Lucy.
I don't know if you can hear me. Yes. Oh yeah. I just wanted to, kind of comment on what you just said. I think it's very insightful. And I've also found that most of Black professionals, our issues are not yes, sometimes it's skills and experience, because we come in late most of the time because of the challenges that we face. I don't even know how I look like, because I'm in the
Oh,
car.
you're
I'm
good.
not even if the video is showing properly.
No, we can see you, Boosie. We can turn it back
Oh,
on.
you
We
can.
see you.
Oh, okay, cool. All right. So yeah, so that's what I'm wondering, but I'm like, can't even see how they see me.
No,
But
we see
anyway,
you.
oh, okay. So, but the issue then is, yes, we'll have less skill. We will struggle with skills and experience because we come in late, because of all this blockages and obstacles on our way. You know, going to school, finding the money to go to school, and having access to opportunities, internship, and all that. So most of the time we come in late, lack of role models and sponsors, as you've just said. And what I've found is that, you know, as Black people, we come from communities where they tell us, you know what, work hard, and which is great. Yes, work hard. That's the start. You know, you have to work hard, but it's the other things. Exactly what you're talking about, Denise. That, do you give confidence that you are going to be the leader that people will listen to? And I do think that when you're speaking about the fact that women wait until they have 100% of the requirements of a job before they apply, it's because the bias is bigger against us.
Yeah.
You know, when someone thinks of a leader, they don't think a woman, they don't think Black. You know, they don't think Black. It's usually there's a color, and you know, that is associated with leadership and strength and all that, and it's not usually our color, or in as women, a woman. So you know that there's always bias. The bias is that you can't do it. So it's almost like I have to overprove that I can do it. I have to tick all of my boxes before I can even step up to this position. So yeah, so my whole thing is around, it's not just about hard work, and it's also about how do I position what I do so that it's visible, so that I can get the sponsor. Because exactly what you said, that the sponsor found you because of what you were doing.
Right.
So for me, the access to the sponsorship is, what is my impact project? What is this project that I'm going to do that is going to ensure that I get into the minds and the attention of the right people, so they start advocating for me?
Absolutely. Well said, Boosie. And, you know, it's interesting. So let me take a couple of things you said, which were all critical. Confidence, and research shows that confidence is the most attractive brand attribute. Of all the brand attributes you could possibly have, confidence is number one. People are drawn to people who exude confidence. Now, you might be a nervous wreck, you might be scared, whatever, scared to the bone. But what that deodorant commercial years ago, never let them see you sweat. So I don't even know, Dial or whatever. Never let them see you sweat. So you could be sweating like crazy, but don't let people see you sweating. And that's about confidence, exuding confidence. The number one brand attribute is confidence. So thank you, Boosie. And visibility is too, as I said, I didn't get promoted to VP until I became more visible. And then when I became more visible and I started showcasing what I could do, then the sponsor, Paul Fireman, came to me and wanted to sponsor me. But he didn't do that when he didn't know that I could do my thing, that I was, working hard, because he didn't see it. So yeah, it's all connected. It's all connected. So thank you. So what we're going to do is I'm going to give you 5 minutes to write out this. So I'm going to just show here 5 minutes I'm going to give you, and I'm going to put this back up. I'm going to turn off, I'm going to still be sitting here, but I'm going to turn off my camera and mute myself, and you guys can do the same if you want, but complete this. And you can do pick as many of these blocks as you want, but I'm going to ask you guys to share them. Can you guys do me a favor, if you're able to, can you take a quick screen picture or whatever it is you can do of this, because I'm going to pop off of my screen share and just go in, because I don't know, as I look at this, I don't know if anybody would be in the waiting room, and if I'm sharing, does anyone know if I'm sharing Will I still be able to see if people are in the waiting room? Does anyone know? I have no idea. Okay, yeah, I don't know.
You
So
should
because I
still
don't,
be able to see it.
I will or I will not.
You should still be able to.
Okay, I was thinking I would, but then I thought, well, there are like a bunch of people who signed up, who registered and aren't here. So I'm wondering, are they in my waiting room and I don't know it? So I'm gonna just pop out while you guys are doing your thing. You can take a picture of that, but I'm gonna come back and put that back up, but I'm gonna stop sharing for just a second while I go on, while I check the waiting room. Okay. Okay. All righty. It's been about, probably gave you a couple extra minutes, but I'm gonna stop sharing just a second, but I'm gonna ask for you guys to share for the next, I don't know, so 10:47, 5 minutes or so we can have 5 minutes for questions and discussions. I'm going to stop share and ask for you guys to dive right on in. So who wants to kick us off with this activity?
I'll go first.
All right, Jonathan, thank you.
So I'll start with an obvious one. I can relate to having a lack of experience and qualifications. I graduated college in 2019. I worked for 7 months and then COVID hit. So it was like I didn't even have time to really like get out there and work before everything was remote. And then I found myself in a new role at a remote, like working remote at a company. So things are looking up there. But I feel like if I had a little bit more experience in like a actual in-person work environment prior to going virtual, that I would be a little bit more successful in that and have a little bit more experience than I do now. But the other one I put was I can relate to having not really having an external network. Like I have a really good internal network with my company that I'm at now, but like I said, like I'm pretty new. So I have a pretty big network in general, but not necessarily a network that serves the purpose of me growing and excelling in my career. Like I know a lot of people at a lot of different companies and things like that, just from college and all other experiences, other conferences and things like that. But I don't necessarily feel that that network is, like I said, serving that growth that I need. And then I can relate to not being able to find a sponsor. I feel like if it had more Black male visibility just in general, and especially my company, I think that that would be a little bit easier and I wouldn't feel as, I don't like the word tokenized, but I wouldn't feel as tokenized at my company. I feel like anytime there's anything, they're like Black male, they're like, ooh, Jonathan. So because I'm like, I've only been here for 7 months. Like you don't have anybody else, you know? Those
No,
are
I
the key
do.
terms.
No, I do know what you mean. And thank you so much for sharing. You mentioned about the network, and it's great that you distinguish between the two, between your network. You said you have a broad network, but it doesn't include the people you need that are going to help advance your career.
Exactly.
And you're right, exactly. And you're absolutely spot on. There is a difference. And by the way, it takes more work to find those folks to put into your network. Absolutely takes more work.
Mhm.
But it's worth it. And first of all, what is this saying? Nothing worth it is easy. So whatever that saying is, nothing worth having. Nothing worth having.
Yeah, nothing
Right?
worth having comes easy. Yeah.
And it doesn't. It nothing worth having. But once you put the work in, as Boosie was saying, work hard. Yes, of course we have to work hard. And some people see it as sort of an obvious thing, and then they might have a certain cutoff point when it comes to working hard. Okay, I've done this. I've worked 8 hours a day. Shoo, I'm exhausted. Well, you know what? Sometimes you might have to work 10 hours, 12 hours a day. I know I
Yeah.
did. I know I did. I was able to advance my career to the C-suite. But that happened because I was working hard, but then doing all those other pieces that come along with it. And for Black professionals, and there's research that shows, and there's statistics that show that we have to, I forget what the number is, and I'll get it for next week. There's a number that shows how many Black professionals believe they have to work twice as hard to move, to advance. And we do. And I don't know if that's going to change anytime soon, but I did want to highlight that, yes, you're just distinguishing between your broad network, but your network of people who are going to help advance your career. And they are very different.
Yeah, because I am like in my network, people reach out to me to advance their career, but I need a network where I can reach out to people to help advance my career.
Yeah,
If that
yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah, it's true. And I think, and then we'll move on, but I do think that sometimes people don't think, sometimes they look at us and they say, oh, well, they've got this going for them and they've got that. Maybe they don't need my help. It's like, no. Actually, I do.
Yes, I've heard that a lot. I've heard that a lot in the most recent weeks. A lot.
Yeah. So what are we going to do about it? Yeah. Sometimes it's a matter of saying, no. I do need your help. And here's how you can help me. Oftentimes we don't ask directly for what we want and what we need. We don't, because it ties back to that self-confidence, because we're afraid of rejection. We're afraid of people saying, no, can't help you, sorry. I went from corporate to a business owner, and I had to completely change my brand, completely redo my brand, because people kept seeing me as this corporate person, and I was, had all these accomplishments. But that sometimes doesn't translate into when you have a business, ownership. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. And it's about asking people for their support that is needed. So thank you for kicking us off, Jonathan. Who's next? All righty. Yes. Let's see.
Similar to Jonathan, I had the sponsor concern, because I feel the lack of having a sponsor kind of disables me or prevents me from like being strategic in how I move about my career. Similar to what we've been talking about, how it's not just about hard work, it really is about brand, who you know, what you do, and visibility and things like that. So how do you, I feel like if I had a sponsor, I would be able to find that balance of strategy of what I should be going above and beyond, because there comes a point where sometimes if you do work too hard, you put yourself in a position of where the company takes advantage of you and you're not necessarily advancing your career.
Yeah. Yeah, and I've heard that too, and it's unfortunate. Some companies will, if you're an employer and you become really, really good at something, but you know it's not really where your long-term passion is. But guess what? You're the best one and maybe the only one in that organization who can do that job. It's the company going to then promote you into an area they know you're going to be more productive and you're going to find more fulfillment and find more meaningful. Or do they keep you in that role because it's better for that company? And it's a tough position for both sides. But that is where all of those blocks I mentioned, one, being confident and going out and saying, listen, this is what I want, having that sponsor who's going to help you break through the tendency of companies to keep us in this box. So you need a sponsor to help you break out of that box. It's about increasing your visibility, expanding your network. All those blocks I mentioned will help you get out of that role if you're kind of stuck in a role that you don't want to be in, but the company finds it's beneficial to the company to keep you there. So all of those pieces, it's everything works together. Everything is connected, and it's taking all those pieces and connecting them together that's going to help Black professionals break through, step up, stand out, and break through into those leadership roles. So, which is why I say it's not easy. It's not. It's sometimes like, oh my gosh. And I went through all of it as I was advancing my career, which is why I do what I do, because I like sharing some of my mistakes, some of my successes, some of my accomplishments to help other professionals. And for Black Professionals Month, specifically helping Black professionals see where those blocks are and helping you break through those blocks for sure. So thank you for sharing that. Hopefully that was helpful. Boosie, got anything? Tracy, Boosie? No, I'm taking silence. Boosie's been talking a lot. Tracy, oh, there we are, Tracy. Hi, Tracy.
Yeah, I definitely relate to the lack of self-confidence, I guess. Like Jonathan, during the pandemic, I graduated from grad school. I didn't have much work experience. I came straight from undergrad before that. So I guess lack of work experience in my field always makes me nervous. Like, well, what am I going to do here? So even when people say like, oh, I can introduce my friend who, had a high position in CMS, which is where I'd like to work in the future. I'm like, oh, she'd probably think, there's not much here because, I don't have much work experience yet.
Yeah, it's interesting when you say that, Tracy. Sometimes we are our own roadblock. Sometimes we are our own career block. Sometimes we get caught up in the noise inside of our heads and negativity to the point we've been talking about, and the point you just made, that lack of self-confidence. And it takes people surrounding ourselves with believers. I wrote a book and I have a chapter in my book about the importance of surrounding yourself with believers. And I had that in my career, and I cannot tell you how that helped me so much in surrounding myself with people who believed in me more than I believed in myself. And I get emotional when I think about this, because I would not have made it if I did not have that circle of support around me, especially being a Black woman, and oftentimes the only Black woman in a particular role in corporate. If I didn't have the support system around me, there's no way I would be here. So to your point, Tracy, surrounding yourself with people, when you go to your tribe, or however you want to define it, and you say, I kind of want to do this, or I want to talk to this person, I want to reach out to this person, but you got that noise in your head, but I don't think they're really going to blah, 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 blah. You need someone to say, girl, get out of your head. Girl, you got this. Girl, go for it. That's what you need. And that's why I do what I do, because I'm that person. I'm that person who's going to say, get out of your own head, get out of your own way. I was that person. I was in my own head. I was in my own way until I started recognizing the need and the importance of surrounding myself. And by the way, at one point in my career, I got rid of negative forces, negative influences in my life, because I had those too. And at some point I said, done, done, done. You're out. If you're not going to be there for me, and I don't mean be there as far as helping any material things or whatever, mentally, emotionally be there for me, then you're dragging me down. So there's a combination. One is to pull people in, surround yourself with people who are going to believe in you, but also getting rid of the noise and the negativity that invades our space, our mental space, our physical space far too much. And we allow that to happen. We sometimes allow that to happen. Oh my God, I could talk about this forever because it's a block. It's a mental block, and mental blocks destroy us. They destroy us. So I talk about that a lot in my workshops because I went through it. I went through it. So I'm here to tell you, Tracy, I'm here to tell you, girlfriend, you got this. Get that noise out of your head. You got it. You got to believe that you have it. I work with inmates, prison inmates. And one of the things that's in common with inmates, and I've been doing that for a few years, not during the pandemic, but before the pandemic, I would go into prisons and do workshops for inmates who've been convicted of all kinds of crimes. But I go in once a month and I do these month-long workshops with these groups of inmates around different prisons around the state. And the one thing most of them have in common is that they allowed themselves to be influenced by negative people, negative forces, who convinced them to do something they knew was wrong. They knew it was wrong, but that was who was in their circle. That was who they were surrounded by. Negative people, not to put you in that bucket. I don't know why I did.
I understand. I understand.
We get it. Good. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right. So, Boosie, I know you said a lot, so I'm sure you have a lot to say, but because I know you do. And Daniel, you're off the hook too, because we are at 11 o'clock and I want to be sensitive to your time. But I do want to ask if you guys have any last minute questions before I let you go for the day. Anything you want to ask about?
So with us being virtual, I feel like it's even harder for us to achieve like sponsorship, visibility, or things like that. Do you have any advice for how to like circumvent the virtual challenge?
Yes, and that is joining a group, but you're right. I mean, this is not ideal. The circumstances are definitely not ideal for any of us, but we're here. And so I would, take advantage of virtual career enhancing programs. There are a ton of them out there, including mine, but there are a ton of them out there. Join groups, LinkedIn, get involved in conversations, follow hashtags is a good way to get your brand out there, increase your visibility. So for me, I have MDK brand management and I have a lot of hashtags that I follow. So I'll get an alert on LinkedIn that says set this, I don't know, I'm making this a hashtag brand coaching or personal branding is trending on LinkedIn, join the conversation. So if you do that, if you start following different hashtags and then get into the conversation, write posts. But there are a ton of them that I walk through my company, but there are a ton of them, but it takes more work. Definitely, absolutely, no doubt it takes more work. But because it's virtual, look at us talking to Boosie, who's in South Africa. You have now more opportunities because now it's global that you can talk to people and see people, whereas before you had to get on the airplane, or you didn't have to, but you felt more pressure to actually go there live in person. Now it's sort of an understood and okay thing to do this, but it takes more research and more work. But what do we say? Nothing. What's that saying, Jonathan? What was I saying? Nothing easy. You're muted, but I read your lips.
Nothing what?
Somebody said that yesterday. They were like, "You're muted," but I read your lips.
Oh, really? That's hilarious. Yes, nothing worth having is easy. Nothing worth having is easy. So with that, hopefully that answered your question. All right, so thank you guys for being here. I hope the other guys, at least 15 or 20 of them will join us next week. But you guys are troopers, especially in Boosie. I don't know if you were, I think you missed the beginning. I apologize for what happened yesterday, but we shook it off and we had this session. So hopefully you guys got some nuggets from this session. I look forward to seeing you next week, same time, same place, same virtual location. And I love the engagement. I feel more energized when there's this level of conversation and engagement. So I thank you guys for doing that. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Boosie. All right, so guys, have a great week. What is today? Saturday. Yes, great weekend. And I look forward to seeing you throughout the week at different virtual programs. So we have tomorrow morning, we have Jerome Hutchinson, my co-founder, he's leading a servant leadership session at 9 a.m. And you will receive, you guys got my automated email this morning for tomorrow's link. So that is tomorrow's link. And it should have been in your email that's what tomorrow is. And then you'll get those. You will be visited by me automatically through automation every single day, the month of October. So hopefully you won't get sick of me when all this is over. All right, guys, have a good weekend. Thank you so much. I'll see you throughout the week.
Bye. Thank
Yes,
you.
bye.
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 Bye.